what I'm talking about!
Okay, here we go with a look at the Ruger SR-22 rifle. In this video, I'm going to give you a close look at the rifle, go over some of its features, and show you what it looks like being fired out at the range. Before we get started, let's go ahead and perform a safety check and promote that safe habit. You can see that there is nothing in the magazine. There is nothing in the chamber. We're handling a safe firearm, so let's go ahead and begin. I have been wanting to check out a Nordic Components chassis for a long time now. They seem kind of elusive, not as elusive as the RBP Evolution stock, but you know, you hardly ever see these for sale on eBay or in stock on a lot of retailers' websites. As far as I know, this is a product that is still in production. It's just out of stock a lot, so maybe they just don't make many of them. I remember in a video, Nut and Fancy said he would never review this rifle because he thought that the stock was too heavy. And I think that he said that in the Troy T22 review. And I've had the Troy T22. I don't think it's a lot lighter than this. I would say that they're very comparable to each other. And if this Nordic Components setup is heavier, it's probably because it's built better. It seemed like the finish on the Troy stock was very susceptible to scratching and blemishing, and this stock here, I mean, just the feel of the finish, the weight in hand, everything looks like it was built just like it would be on an AR-15. Nordic Components did a great job designing a stock that makes your 1022 feel very much like an AR-15. Now, like I observed in my Troy T22 versus Archangel 5.56 video, when you give up the polymer material and go to an aluminum material, you are going to add that weight, but you're also going to add that coating on the outside. Aluminum isn't black all the way through, so if you scratch the anodizing or the paint or the finish, it's going to show a silver metallic scratch through that colored coating. Whereas with polymer, yeah, it's nice that it's a little lighter weight, but the thing that I appreciate most about polymer is it's never going to blemish through that color. The color is solid all the way through. But being as many of these components on this build are actually the same thing that goes on an AR-15, the handguard, the pistol grip, the adjustable stock, all of that is the exact same thing you would find on an AR-15. So that really helps to sell it as an AR-15 lookalike. In this handguard, there are some threaded holes that would accept a screw if you want to mount Picatinny rails. You could mount rails in the 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock position, making this a quad rail. It's outfitted with a mil-spec buffer tube, so you could exchange this standard A2 stock that is branded with the Ruger logo for any other mil-spec stocks. The grip is a Hogue finger groove grip, and it's got that cobblestone overmolded rubber, and that feels really good in hand. The one thing that I really appreciate about the Nordics component kit, they took the time to fill in that gap between the front of the pistol grip and the rear of the trigger guard. There are a lot of stocks out there that kind of ignored that detail, and I feel like the build suffers for it. I think cosmetically, for me, it's a deal breaker when I see that gap there. This stock does assemble very similarly to the Archangel 5.56. You have 4 screws that attach the upper receiver part of the stock to the actual receiver. You have the takedown screw that attaches the lower chassis to the receiver, and you have 2 screws that attach your handguard to your lower chassis. Now, there are 2 screws that they did not put in this build that Archangel did. One here, and then another one here. You can see that there's no material here for them to add that, and I feel like that was a mistake. I have worked with enough Ruger 1022s to know that when you have to break something like this down and you're constantly unthreading these 4 upper receiver screws, it is very easy to cross thread or strip the threading in that 1022 receiver. I'm extremely careful, and I have stripped out one of the 4 holes on at least 3 of my 1022 receivers that I've worked with in the past. It stunned me how easily the threading on those receivers stripped out. Getting to the takedown of this stock, like I said, it's not a lot different than the Archangel 556, and that's one of my favorite 1022 stocks for the Ruger 1022. But with this stock, you don't have the option to not install these 4 screws into the receiver. There would be nothing for this upper portion to connect to at that point. So every time you break this stock down, you're going to have to take your optic off, then you're going to have to take your 4 screws out of your receiver, and then your 2 screws here and your takedown screw, break this thing down, so you're going to lose 0 every time you clean this. Now that is true of the Archangel 556, but it really bothers me that these are the only 4 screws holding your upper portion of your chassis to the receiver. To me, I feel like having that need to constantly unthread and thread and unthread when you clean, eventually you're going to strip out one of your receiver threads. Overall, the weight and the finish of this stock comes closer to resembling an AR-15 than any other stock that I've tried. And I've tried a lot of stocks for the Ruger 1022. But because of the way the rail here attaches to the receiver, I don't think it's something that I would run long term. One of the things that surprised me about this Ruger SR-22 rifle, they actually don't have Ruger 1022 stamped in the receiver. I figured that they would have just grabbed the 1022 receiver and thrown it in this stock and designated it the SR-22 rifle. This receiver is actually stamped SR-22 rifle, and that kind of surprised me. So you've got 3 different types of receivers out there. You've got your 1022 receiver, you've got your Charger receiver, and now you have your SR-22 rifle receiver. I don't know if this was one of their earlier versions of the Ruger SR-22 rifle, but I haven't seen this barrel on any other build. This seems to be kind of like a medium profile barrel. It's not a .920, and it's not that tapered barrel that you find on the tactical models. I'm not sure if they're continuing to use this barrel on their current production SR-22 rifles, or if they've just gone ahead and went with the tactical tapered barrel that has that threaded end and that Ruger signature birdcage flash hider on it. I've kind of priced these out on Arms List, and I'm seeing them go between $450 and $550, maybe upwards of $600 depending on how they're outfitted. But at the end of the day, when you're spending $250 on a stripped down stock plain Jane Ruger 1022, I really don't think that's a bad price for what you're getting here. I wasn't able to find any of these new in stock anywhere to see what the new list price would be, but they're going on the secondhand market for between $450 and $550. And considering what you have to pay for the Nordic component stock on eBay, I've seen those go between $240 and $340 depending on how they're outfitted, whether it just says Nordic components or whether it's stamped with the Ruger emblems and the SR-22 rifle markings. Okay, well, here is a look at this being fired out at the range. Alright, well, there is a close look at the Ruger SR-22 rifle. It's a big world out there, and we're bound to run into a shady situation. Until then, keep your gear on you.